Never done
Hello, my
this
name
one.
is Rusty Coones, and I have with me Becky Goebel, founder of Axel's Hideout. How you doing, Becky?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I got you here, man. How can I not be doing great? You know, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm just saying, you got a lot going on, man. I got a list of stuff I want to talk to you about. Um, and you've been really active for a number of years here in the motorcycle community, bringing women together, doing events for women, showcasing women, doing ads for Harley Davidson, riding across Europe with other women riders, Mexico, Alaska. I mean, you're all over the place. You know what I mean? So, by the way, cool hat. Anyhow,
Thank you.
what we'll do is I want to go back to the beginning with you when you were a kid. And what age were you and where were you at when you got on two wheels for the first time? I don't care if it's a tote goat, a mini bike, a big wheel, or what.
All right. Well, yeah, my first memory ever on a two-wheeled thing was probably on the farm where I'm from. We didn't really have a farm. It was just like a shitty acreage in Saskatchewan, Canada. And we had a lot of just broken down things on the farm, like go-karts, golf carts, little dirt bikes. And we had like a mini bike, like a mini dirt bike. And I would just use it to kind of get around. And I remember for my fourth birthday, there's actually a picture of it on my Facebook. My dad got me a three-wheel trike. And he always said, he's like, don't put your feet down because you'll run yourself over. And I was just
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
whatever, dad. And I picked up my neighbor kid and she got on the back and she put her foot down and I ran over her entire body. And I just remember like
You just jerk her right off the bike and run over
yeah,
her.
she just got sucked right under the rear wheel. Erin Tomlinson, we still talk to this day, but yeah, she was like, had to go to the hospital. I was
Yeah,
four.
man, those three wheelers, they're dangerous because they put
Yeah,
you over. You hit the brakes in a turn and it just goes right over, high side.
yeah, I think they're like illegal now.
Yeah, they don't make them anymore. They went to
Mhm.
the four wheelers because there was lawsuits, all kinds of stuff like you were talking about going on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, go now.
I
What's
see
the
why.
next bike after that?
Um, Probably when I got to be right, my dad was such a dirt bike guy. Like his best friend was Blair Morgan, or like the Morgan family from Saskatchewan, who's like very famous dirt bike, snowmobile family. And my dad was the kid who was like catwalking his way to school, had a dirt bike parked outside. So we always had dirt bikes around. And I remember like my first time really trying to ride one of his bigger bikes. He was standing over my handlebars, like facing me. And I was trying to learn how to use the clutch. And I like popped him right up off of the ground.
I was
And I
gonna
was
say
scared of bikes.
he had guts to stand in front of you with that thing running like that.
I know, right? Now. And then, yeah, my mom had a 1983, something like that, Honda Rebel, and she had it from before I was born. So it was always in my garage. And when I got my driver's license or just started driving on the road, that was the first bike that I learned how to ride on. So it was a 250 Honda Rebel, which is like such a great starter
That's
bike. It was
perfect for
just
you. Yeah.
such a perfect bike to have around as a kid. I was very lucky that my parents kind of, I had that around. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like what they use in the training courses, those 250s. When
Yeah.
people first
Yeah.
start riding, it's perfect size for women and men, you know?
Yeah. It's a great
Okay,
starter
so
bike.
after that, when did you transition to Harley Davidsons?
Um, so I bought my own bike around age 20. Actually, before that, I had a scooter. I had a 49cc scooter because I didn't need a motorcycle license. And I just needed it to get around town. I lived on my own in Vancouver. And in the winters, I was like sliding around on the ice. And the scooter just wasn't really fast enough to get over the bridge that I needed to get to my university. And so I ended up upgrading to $1,000 Suzuki GS 450. And it was just such a piece of crap. Like I had to bump start it almost every day and just had to fix on it all the time, which is kind of just, started me off really good because I had low expectations. And I had that bike for 2 years, and then I bought a Yamaha XT500 in 1976, which was like kind of my first cool bike because it was like, those are iconic old, the first year they ever made an XT, like a cool vintagey dirt bike. And then when I graduated university, my dad, my dad took me out for dinner for my university graduation. And when we left the restaurant, there was an 883 Sportster sitting outside the restaurant. And my parents never, I never like got any crazy presents from my parents, but my dad, I think he wanted to be the one to get me my first Harley. So it was a 2007 Roadster 883. And that was my first Harley. I think I was like 25, 24. And I loved that bike. Like I rode that bike so much. Me and my dad did a lot of trips together where I rode that bike. So that was like my first Harley.
Yeah, those were fast. I think they were rubber mounted drivetrain on that, so it was smooth. And
Yeah.
I mean, you could cruise with anything.
Mhm.
I want to talk about these 8 women you showcased at Axel's Hideout in conjunction with Harley Davidson. I think that's a cool thing. You had a total of 8 women in the contest, correct? For the bike show?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just like an exhibit, just kind of an excuse to celebrate a couple women that are in our community that already have bikes that are built. And yeah, I just picked 8 girls that I knew of that, kind of deserved that a little bit of, voice in the community to speak up, who maybe like don't speak up as much, and like felt like they needed to be showcased a little bit. And like it's
Mhm.
kind of just what we did. Had a cool girls section at Born Free.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of the bikes and everything. It looked cool. So tell me briefly about each woman and why you picked her and what kind of bike she had.
All right. Well, the whole reasoning behind the hideout was to just involve more women in the event. I was the first woman invited to build a bike for Born Free, which was Born Free 13. And then Born Free 14, there was like a lot of talk about who they were going to invite for another woman. And Harley Davidson is a big sponsor of Born Free, and they were like, let's have some woman involvement. And I kind of stepped in and I was like, let's just do a showcase of women that are already have these cool bikes and they ride the shit out of them, and like let's just put these ones on display. So Harley backed my idea and Born Free backed my idea, and they gave me this big space. And I chose 8 women that I knew that were from from the area at first, and then I had other women starting to reach out to me being like, I want to be a part of this. So I actually had a woman that came all the way from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to showcase her Sportster, and she had a cool story, has a cool job and a cool bike, and she just wanted to come and like tell her story and be a part of it. And I thought having her was really awesome because I felt like I kind of brought her into our group of friends, and like other people did that for me in the beginning when I first started doing this stuff. So everyone was really, really awesome. We had like Masumi from Brat Style, her panhead. We had Megan Margison, who rides 5,000 miles with her family every single summer. Her panhead chopper, that's the South Bay style. Her, she
Hold on
does
a minute. Hold
that.
on. Hold on. She's riding a panhead chopper and she's riding 5,000 miles on that bike in the summer on vacation or whatever.
Yeah, she, with her mom, dad, and sometimes brother and her, they
Yeah.
do 5,000 miles every summer. And she's been doing that for years. They go all the way up to Canada and ride around. And
Oh, is that a rigid or is that a swing arm?
yeah, it's a rigid. All 3 of their bikes are South Bay style with the auxiliary gas tank that they built out
Oh,
of,
yeah. Yeah, I see a lot of the guys
yeah.
putting them on the sissy bar and all that. Yeah.
So
That's
they're
cool.
long haulers. So she, she's someone you see on social media, and you see her on her trips online, and but you maybe never see her bike. So I thought it was just a cool place to be like, here she is in real life, like talk to her. And, when you see it, you can believe it, and that was the whole point of the hideout, was to inspire other women. Like, like, oh, this is this girl? Like she's like this itty bitty and her bike is like this 8 feet long and
Yeah.
she rides this thing 5,000 miles every summer. Like I could do it too. And every bike there was kind of like that. Like Taylor Dion was another one that was involved. She has a cone shovel that she built with her dad, and it's just so her style. She's this 24-year-old skater girl from Orange County who just like parties and is a construction worker and like loves choppers. And her dad is like a tattooed biker dad, and like they built this bike together. And you see her on the internet all the time, like you want to see her stuff in real life. And then we had Audrey Law, who has a Sportster, and her bike she's had for so many years, and she's changed it so much based on like what she likes to use her bike for. So each one of these women had a collage in front of their bike that they put photos on that told the story of their bike. So someone like Audrey, she showed the changes of her bike over the years, and her bike in Mexico, and her bike like in all of the places she's ridden. And then also that like, she puts on all these motorcycle events and car events, and her herself is like such a badass. And so it's cool because like, Megan and Taylor, their bikes maybe aren't so attainable for your first bike build, but Audrey, she does all these amazing things, but her bike is very attainable for your first bike. So I kind of wanted to show all the different diversity of what you can do as a woman with a bike. It doesn't have to be like this crazy panhead show bike like mine. That doesn't have to be your first build project. Yeah, and we had one of my best friends, Callie Gibson. She owns a business in LA. She has a chopper that her and I ride every summer. We do big trip, her, me, and another girl. And yeah, we had Eureka. She is got a shovel head that's just like crazy. She's been around forever. She's like OG chopper mama, has kids now, and like she's just been around a long time. And I wanted to include some women that are like aren't new to the scene. They've been here and they want to tell their story. So it was like a huge group of like writers and people who've been around a long time, shovelheads, panheads, sportsters, like a whole mix of people.
Right on. Right on, man.
Yeah.
That's cool as hell. Okay, now I want to talk about your bike, your 48 Panhead.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was on display this weekend.
Why did you end up, how did you acquire the bike? Why did you acquire the bike? Was it something you wanted specifically, or was it just by chance?
Okay. So Mike Davis, who puts on Born Free, messaged me on Instagram and asked me if I wanted to build a bike for Born Free. And I was just like, bro, like so far what I had really posted on social media of me like building bikes was a race bike that everybody kind of saw me build to race, not a Harley. And I also built a Sportster chopper. So I was kind of like, dude, I'm not like your Born Free builder. He said, I don't care. If you want to build a bike, like you can build whatever you want. So I was like, okay, I have like only this much money. Like, can I build a Sportster? Plus, I know how to work on Sportsters. I've had tons of Sportsters. He was like, yeah, you can build a Sportster. So I was like, okay. Born Free that year had been pushed to August because of COVID. So then they didn't invite builders for 1 month after that, which meant by the time I bought my bike and Born Free was going to happen again in June, I only had like 8 or 9 months to build this bike. So, anyways, I'm like shopping, trying to find a Sportster to build for Born Free. And this $5,000 pan shovel, it was a 48 pan head and that had shovel heads on it, and a 47 transmission in a 1948 original frame popped up. And it was $5,000. So it was like in my price range that I was searching for. What was that?
Did it run?
No, God. That was all that it was the motor, transmission, and frame, and it was just a basket case. Like everything had to be rebuilt. But it was like in Torrance, and it was cheap. And I was like, damn, do I like build a panhead? Like, I could technically keep this within my price range if I like get some help. So I ended up like getting some help from sponsors to like put into this bike, but I ended up buying this and how I did my build was that I rented shop space off Hog Supply in downtown LA. They are Harley motor rebuilders. So they rebuild panhead, shovelhead, knucklehead. And so through my monthly rental fee with them, I got my own lift, my own section there. But through that relationship, they went through my motor and transmission with me. So it was so awesome. Like I got to learn the inside of a panhead and a transmission, and I had my hands on every single piece of that motor and transmission, and rebuilt it from the ground up with their team and their employees. And I sandblasted the frame and rebondoed it and painted it myself, and just went through that whole bike like piece by piece. I had lots of pieces sponsored to me. I had lots of things I had already that I really wanted to use on a bike eventually. I had like the pipes sponsored to me. I bent all the metal pieces myself and got a lot of stuff just chromed, and used a lot of companies that have always kind of wanted to like work with me. So I was just like, help me, like I need this. So yeah, it was pretty cool experience. Like I did some things, I never wanted to do something that was like, oh, she never did that, or oh, I could never do that. Like I wanted it to be very honest of what I was doing. So like for example, I wanted to learn how to sand cast some things because I wanted to do some things on the bikes that on the bike that I did that was like very handmade by me. And I just went on YouTube and kind of learned how to like sand cast. And I took the old pistons that were in that motor when I got it and I melted them down. And this company gave me a 3D printer throughout this process, which was crazy. So I made 3D prints of a bird deflector, a kicker pedal, and a headlight mount. And I literally sand casted my own parts to make for this bike, like one of a kind parts out of the original pistons. So that was just something that I wanted to be like, this isn't like rocket science. Like
Yeah.
I figured out how to do some things that were like impressive at Born Free. Of course, I'm not going to win Born Free, but I just wanted to be like, look, like I spent $0 making these parts,
Right. Now
So
on the panhead, did you run a 16 on it like they had stock, or on the front wheel?
no, I have on the front wheel I have a 21. It was a
21?
Pangea Speed hoop. It's the skinniest
Oh yeah. Like a
wheel that
275, probably 21, 275 or whatever.
yeah.
And were you running a Springer or a wide glide up front?
Yeah, I bought a Springer front end off that company W&W, and I just like cut all of the mounts off and just chromed it pretty much. And
No front brake,
no,
right?
yeah.
You have
The the
you have the mechanical rear brake, or do you go hydraulic in the rear?
It's a mechanical in the back, but it was the argument that we had was whether I make it foot clutch or not. And because most of these guys are like running foot clutches, and I don't know, I just never really like had one before. And I was just like, no, you know what? I want a hand clutch, and I want to just have this bike be like what I would really ride. Like after
Yeah.
Born Free, I want to like own this bike and be happy with what I spent all this money on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I put a hand clutch on it and just I don't know, I made it mine, and I just
Yeah.
stayed to like what I think is like cool for me and works for me.
Yeah. With the old transmissions, before they had the ratchet lids for shifting, you would have to feel it into the gears. And I would recommend, I don't know if you did it or not, but if you have a ratchet lid on it, it's a lot easier. It's normally, it goes right into gear, and you don't miss a gear, and you don't have to feel it in, and you can't get in between. And it works really good with a hand clutch. A lot of people did that. Like my old 41 knuckle, I put a ratchet lid on the transmission, you know.
Nice. Yeah.
And I had the mechanical, which is worthless in the rear, man, especially in the mountains with the mechanical, because those it's shoes instead of disc, and
Yeah.
they heat up, and then you don't
Yeah.
have the extra pressure from having hydraulic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah,
So like this is my first experience with that brake, and I haven't this bike, like I'm still learning about and I'm still figuring it out, like, and I still haven't ridden it a lot. So I'm just getting a bike like this for your first time. It's not just like oh, now I have this bike and like everything's fine. Like, no, it
yeah,
takes a long time to figure out how it works. And like I still don't really want to be alone um anywhere with this bike, because like I'm worried about the moment when I can't start it, or like something happens and I need help. And so, I'm not leaving this. I spent like $25,000 on this bike,
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know. I just trying to be like very realistic to people who are watching things like this. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
One thing, when you don't have a front brake, it's very dangerous in a panic situation when you're stopping. That front brake really helps a lot when you have to stop on a dime. Somebody pulls out in front of you, a pedestrian, a car, or whatever.
yeah, that's not new to me. I've been riding no front brake for like 8 years now on all my bikes. But I agree. If I don't want to crash my really expensive bike,
Yeah, just give
that's another
yourself a
thing.
little bit of give yourself a little distance between whoever's in front of you. You know?
Yeah, I mean, the no front brake chopper thing is just a whole different style of riding. And every time one of my girlfriends gets a new bike and she's wondering if she should take the brake off, I'm always like, it's a whole new, you have to learn how to ride your bike again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It looks cool. I mean, I did it for a long time. I never wanted a front brake, and the drum brakes were kind of worthless anyway back then.
Yeah, little
But
chopper stopper.
for the choppers, they look cool. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So now that we talked about that, I want to hear about what your daily rider, your most modern daily rider is that you can take anywhere and it's ready to go.
I my most comfortable bike for me, that's like my bike, is my Chrome Sportster chopper. It's a 2003, I think, and it's super tall sissy bar, apes, or I guess you call them apes, king queen seat, no front brake. That's the bike that's like, I'll, if we're going on a trip, I for sure take that bike. It's ridden a lot, and Beyonce, it's the Beyonce, because Beyonce sat on it in Vogue last July, which is a story in itself. But then I also have a 2016 Dyna, that I've like, it's all flamed out, and it's the one that is always on the Russ Brown page. I love that bike, and like that has nice brakes and is safe. It has bags.
Yeah.
It has a speedometer, front brake, all
Yeah,
these things.
that's a good cruiser right there, no doubt.
Yeah.
How many other
Yeah.
personal bikes do you got?
I ride. I just picked up like 6 months ago. I picked up the Sportster that was built by Hafley Bros. It's like really cool. I think it's a 1997 Sportster chopper, and um, I found it on Chopper Swapper for $5,500 in San Diego, and I went down there, and it's like just the coolest little sporty chopper you've ever seen, like the tiniest little thing. And after I posted it online, I found out Hafley Bros built it, and they're really well known. They built bikes for Born Free before, and they make a hardtail kit for Sportsters that lots of people buy. And this was actually their like prototype bike that
Right
they
on.
like used to make all these things. So it's cool because I never built that bike, but it's so well done, and I'm still like finding things about it that I just like love. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Just in the brakes work. Good break.
Do you want to talk about any of your other personal bikes before we move on?
I think we're gonna talk about my race bike, so can skip that.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah. All right. So, how'd you end up at Roland Sands shop, I think that has something to do with your racing. Is that correct?
Y- yes. So I met Roland Sands like 10 years ago at an event that was like an influencer event for Toyota. Actually, it was really random. And we just kind of became friends, and that's where I met some other people in the industry. And then when I moved to Long Beach, I just went over to his shop and was like, I live in Long Beach now, like I'm here. And he'd hit me up to like be in some of his photos, ads and things like that. And then I got invited to be, well, you have to submit, but this program came up called Build Train Race. It was a Royal Enfield program. Basically, chose, it's different now. They chose 7 women who applied to be a part of this program, and you had to never have road raced before. So I never even raced anything before, and they chose me, and they sent me a brand new Royal Enfield GT 650, and I didn't have any type of shop at all. So I went over to Roland Sands and I was like, dude, you know road racing, right? And he's like, bro, I used to be like a world famous road racer. I was like, I don't even know what road racing is. Like, is it circular or is it like, I had no idea what road racing was. And he was like, oh my God, like come into my office. And it was cool experience because Roland kind of just got to, I don't know, like relive his beginning of his road race career through me. And then I got to learn about this sport that I didn't know anything about. And basically, he sponsored me throughout this program. So he gave me a lift in his shop and tools. And then his mechanic was in there. So obviously, I like used him, and they do all the bagger racing for Moto America. So they're still like fully involved in the race circuit. And I built this little road race bike out of that Royal Enfield. And then throughout the program, after the build portion of the program, you go on to do the train portion of the program. And we went to 2 different racetracks in America, and they shipped our bikes there, and we had professional training to learn like how to road race and
Yeah.
get your knee on the ground and how to lean and like how to go around corners, how to like not crash. And Roland Sands made me my race outfit. I had a helmet sponsor. I Alpine Stars gave me like boots and gloves. And then we literally raced at 3 different Moto America races. So
Wow. So
this is all in the
you had
span of a year.
7 women, all on Royal Enfields, all matching bikes for
Hmm.
these 3 different races across America.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. So what did you do?
Well, everyone thought I was going to be in very, very last place because throughout the training, I was like, I hate this. Like, I am such a calculated risk person. I'm not very ego driven. I'm very like, you know, what am I going to do? And I did not like the race thing. I didn't like girls being close to me on the road. I was trained how to ride properly, in a group, respecting each other. And this was just so out of my comfort zone. But when we got to Moto America, like after the training and all this, my like internal motorcycle, like whatever I have inside me from my family of generations of riders, like it seemed to just like come out. And I got second place in the first 2 races
All
that we
right.
did. And the girl that beat me, she was so fast. Like there was no beating her ever. And then in the third race, I crashed my bike, and yeah, it was like such a rainy weekend, and I was kind of just like, I'm done. And now my bike hangs from the ceiling of Roland Sands.
I was going to ask you, did they let you keep the bike?
Yeah, they let us keep the bike, and then some of the women went back to the program the next year. We were welcome to like continue doing it, but that's when I built my Born Free bike.
Gotcha. So the girl that was winning that was so fast, did she have racing experience already?
She had a motocross
Oh, well, there you go.
experience.
Motocross. That's great right there. That's a huge advantage right there. Okay, I
Yeah,
know it's not
she
street
was
racing,
amazing.
but it's definitely a big advantage. All right, so Let's talk about Harley Davidson with the ads that you do with them.
Um, yeah, I how did that even start? I don't even know. I've always bugged everybody who I know at Harley Davidson over the years, just nonstop. I'm like the little kid that's like, hi, I'm not going anywhere. Like, use me for anything you do. So over the years, I kind of just started riding in a lot of their ads, and I'd show up to do shoots, and the bike would be like covered. You didn't even know what it looked like. Like
Oh,
the
the new
lowrider,
models, they haven't come out yet? Yeah,
yeah.
that's
And
cool.
I love it. I just love it. Like I did the shoot for the new lowrider S and lowrider ST up in the canyons. Like everybody's seen the photos of
What was that,
you
like eight,
know
17 or 18?
Well, the lowrider ST just came out like it was like last year, the year before, so we just did it a couple months before
Oh,
that.
okay.
But yeah, I was on the lowrider S, and that was such a memorable one because like we're in these crazy roads, and I'm just like chasing a minivan that has filmers hanging out the back of it, and I just use the windshield of the van to be able to see where the next turn is, and like I'm just looking in my I'm just thinking to myself, I'm like, this is my job, like this is
Yeah.
crazy.
It's great to get paid for what you love, you know what I mean? It's not working when it's like
Yeah,
that. All right,
totally.
so what about this event that you co-hosted for 7 years, the Dream Roll?
Yeah, I did the dream roll. It was kind of my like entryway to the industry, really, because I did it with Lana McNaughton, who was just like so somebody who had been in the scene for a while, and she taught me a lot of stuff, and I just wanted to like learn from what she did, and her and I did lots of trips throughout the time that I did dream roll, and Dreamroll started with just like a couple hundred. It was like I think our first one was around 300 women, and then it grew to over 1,000. And now Dreamroll continues happening, but I'm no longer a part of it. But I still been to them all. Like Lana's always has me come out, and yeah, the Dreamroll is like a cool thing. That nowadays I feel like there's so many events and so many women's events and stuff, and like I just like love seeing it. But Dreamroll was like this like OG one where like you couldn't just ride there from home. Like you had to ride far to get there. It was always in the middle of nowhere. There was no amenities. Like what maybe
Yeah.
wasn't the greatest event, but like if you were there, you were a badass, you know?
Yeah, and you all camp out. There's no staying at the hotel or motel, and
Exactly.
it's like you're there like the old days around the campfires and hanging out and partying the whole time.
Uh-huh. Yeah, before Instagram stories, like I remember the first night ever of Dreamroll, we like had a naked dance party. And like, but no one, none of those, none, there was never any like videos and pictures posted because there was social media, but not like Instagram stories, no Instagram videos. And like, it was dark. So you, like, it was just these like cool core women community built, like building times that I feel like it can't really happen anymore. And the women that were a part of those times are just we're still all so tight, you know.
Right on. Okay, I got one last story I want to hear about this riding the Husqvarnas across Europe.
Oh yeah, that kind of happened. Like Lana was a part of that, and then Audrey, who is now Lana's business partner, who puts on Paradise Road. Us three girls, um, those girls like hustled this trip, and they were like, "Yo, Becky, do you want to come to Europe with us? Like, we gonna shoot some photos for Husqvarna motorcycles." I'd never ever been overseas, like, or well, I've never been to Europe, that's for sure. And I was like, really? Like, you guys are gonna pay for all my stuff to come over there ride a motorcycle? Didn't even really know where we were gonna go, but I flew into Austria and we did 5,000 miles across the European Alps over the course of a month on these Husqvarna Supermoto 701. So like tall bikes. I'm definitely by far like the one that has the longest legs out of everybody. So I kind of was able to maneuver this bike, but like some of the other girls had some problems, and it just made this trip so interesting. Like there's so many good stories from this trip. Like Audrey dropped her bike onto my bike, and then I dropped mine on Alana's, and then Lana dropped hers onto the other girls, and we just like figured out how to use these tall, wild, awesome bikes that were made for the Alps. Like that's what those bikes were made for, was riding these crazy roads. And yeah, it was like the to this that was God 8 years ago or something like that. It's still to this day the best trip of my life, I think.
And with those bikes right there, you got to have one foot on the ground on one side or the other. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they're too tall for you to put both feet on the ground, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, you had to do the like
Yeah.
butt
You
shift.
scoot your ass over one way or the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, look, it's been a great interview, man. You've done a lot of cool stuff, and I know you got a whole lot more coming. So I appreciate you
Thank
being
you.
on here. You got anything else you want to say before we close out?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered it all. I feel like I've just been like yapping for a half hour.
Well, you did good. You did good. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for coming on. Okay.
Thanks, I appreciate it. I appreciate you wanting to do this with me.
Absolutely.